Phil Dobson here, author of The Brain Book and founder of Brain Workshops. In this video, I want to help you improve your memory. It came up in a session I ran last week. I was in Dublin with a favourite client of mine, running sessions on how to improve your productivity and how to build your resilience by applying what we know about the brain. And as I often like to do at the beginning of the session, I went around the room asking each individual what would they really want from the session, what would define success, so that by the end of the day, I've hopefully delivered for each and every person. And memory came up 3 times. How can I improve my memory? So I thought now is a timely time to respond, to try and help you develop the memory you've already got. So that's what this video is about. I think we should probably begin by asking the question, are you someone that repeatedly says to yourself or to others, oh, my memory's awful, or oh, I'm awful with names? Because if you are someone that does that, please stop it. Think about it, like, not only are you sort of giving yourself an excuse and permission to continue to be bad at remembering things, but anything that you repeatedly tell yourself is likely to be solidified, isn't it? If you're trying to change something, stop telling yourself the opposite is true. It starts to become part of your identity almost. So yeah, if you keep on saying, oh, my memory's awful, please stop it and start to think in terms of what would it be like if my memory was improving? Because we all know people who've got fantastic memories, and let's face it, it's a pretty valuable personal and professional skill. And besides, your memory is actually phenomenal. If you've ever had an experience have you ever noticed sometimes a smell will take you back years, and almost in an instant, you suddenly recall vivid detail about maybe it's the conversation you're having, where you're standing, what you're wearing. So actually your memory is phenomenal given the right conditions, and that's really what this is all about. If you want to improve your memory, it's really about creating the right conditions. So to do that, understand that memory follows a process, a 3-stage process. It begins with encode, that then goes to store, and then that goes to recall. Think about it like you're creating a file or a folder on your computer, right? If you were to create a file, it would begin with create file. Then you would save the document, right? You'd save the file. And if you do those 2 things, finding it through a search would be easy. But if you think about that analogy using a computer, no finding mechanism will ever find a document that you never created and you never saved. So stop measuring your memory competency based on your ability to recall things. Because the other way of saying that is you're measuring your competency at the last stage of a 3-stage process. And if you haven't done stage 1 or you haven't done stage 2, stage 3 is impossible. So to improve your memory, it's not about getting better at recalling things. Instead, it's getting better at encoding things and storing things. So how do you do that? To get better at encoding things, all that really means is pay closer attention. I think the single greatest reason we aren't very good at remembering things is because we're not very good at paying close attention or being undistracted. This is true of remembering or forgetting names. Someone offers their name and within seconds we seem to have lost it. Now that wouldn't happen if they said just some random word to you. If you met someone at a party and they just said apple, 5 seconds later you wouldn't be challenging, was it apple or was it peach? It's just bizarre. But when it's someone's name, because we're distracted, maybe thinking about what we're going to say next, we don't encode it, we've missed it, and subsequent storage or recall, like I said, is impossible. So pay closer attention. With people, I think this is particularly important. There's a philosopher, French philosopher, Simone Weil, says, attention is the rarest and purest forms of generosity. Now that's really relevant today, and when we talk about memory, particularly so. We all know how nice it is when someone else remembers our name, because ultimately it's demonstrating that they care enough about us to do so. Also, if you think about remembering what you're reading or watching, maybe, if you're ever one of those people that multimedia multitasks, imagine you're watching a documentary, but you've got your mobile phone in your hand. No surprise, it gets to the end of the doc, someone asks what was it about, and you can't really remember any specifics. So declarative memory has to begin with paying closer attention. Whether that's eliminating distractions, creating single task focus, or deciding when you're about to meet someone that you're just going to pay attention for a couple of seconds, that's the first key. Then, how do you get better at storing things? Well, this is when memory techniques becomes valuable, right? We tend to get better at storing things if we either repeat things, or we associate things with that we already know, or we visualize things. And visualize, think more in terms of using your imagination, because it could be sounds or almost sort of touches. So let me go through those things in a more sort of practical sense. Let's think about the things that you want to get better at remembering. Let's start again with names. If you want to get better at remembering someone's name, the next time you go to a party, number one, decide that you will be someone that remembers people's names, right? Set the intention. Number two, when you meet someone, pay close attention to their name. Number three, repeat it, apply the repetition strategy. And then in the next minute or so, as you're listening, you want to do something active with your imagination in order that you can recall their name. It could be creating an image that somehow represents it. It could be using the sound, perhaps, some sort of metaphor. But you need to be active, right? You need to engage your brain, your imagination in this process. You've paid attention, you're now going to deliberately store it, creating an engram is the proper term for a memory, I suppose. And if you do that, recall will be easy. How do we apply the principles to remembering what you want to read? So remembering what you want to read is similar, but a slightly different process. The key to remembering what you read is to find meaning in it. So again, pay close attention, shut down other tabs, shut down any other distractions, get complete single task focus. And maybe think about, well, set yourself up to find associations, such as, why am I reading this document? What do I know about this material or this topic already? What do I want to gain by reading this? And as you go through the document, you're thinking about, well, how does this fit with what I already know? Does it contradict any of the things that I thought I knew about this topic? What do I think about this? How might I explain or teach this to someone else? You see, you're processing it. You're finding meaning in the document. And again, if you do those two things, you pay attention, you find meaning, you consequently store it, then recall again will be easy. And then maybe the last technique or the last sort of application is about remembering lists. Now, we need to do this probably ever less nowadays with our phones in our pockets, but you know, memory champions or becoming a memory champion is all about recalling pi to the 1000th place or memorizing 20 decks of shuffled cards. Now, it sounds difficult, but the trick to doing it is really using your imagination and using visualization. So if you want to get better at that, which I strongly recommend just because it's quite fun, do a search for the Memory Palace or the Roman Room. Same technique. What it really utilizes is a place that you know very well, such as your living room, and then you use that and particular points around it to form a sequence that will then enable you to remember anything. If you then want to remember a list, you picture each item on the list at different points around your home, and suddenly you're remembering things according to the stuff that you already know, right? And you do that a couple of times, you're applying everything: repetition, association, visualization. So hopefully that's helped. I know we've kind of covered quite a lot, but let's come back to the basics. Memory follows a process. Your memory is phenomenal if you follow the process correctly. Number one, encode. All that means is pay closer attention, whether it's to people, to the stuff you read, or to the lists you want to remember. Attention is the first step. Without that, nothing is going to be recalled. Number two, step two is all about storing that information. Use your imagination, be creative, engage in visualization, engage in metaphor, and all the while associate with what you already know. Even if that seems quite tangential, the more you think about this, the more you try and form new associations, the more effective that's likely to be. Use repetition when you can, especially with names. Now, if you do those things, then I can guarantee your recall, your memory, will improve significantly, and you'll suddenly become one of those people that no longer says, oh, my memory's awful, because you will have become someone whose memory is phenomenal. I hope that's helped. Best of luck. Any comments, get in touch, and more resources on the website brainworkshops.co.uk that helps you think and work smarter every day by using your brain better and more deliberately. Until next time.